So first thing we got to do is get the old suspension out of the way, and we happen to find a little bit of an aftermarket fix was done to this thing. You can see right here is the original shock mount was much farther in. They moved it out about 3 inches, and that fix obviously didn't really fix a whole lot because we still had problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix it the right way and really make this thing handle well out in the trails.
So we've got our new suspension kit from FST, and what I'd like to do is just kind of break it down and make it real simple if I can for just a second. Let's get this out of here. Now think about the body of this Commander as a table, right? So the shocks are the legs of the table as they currently look right there. What we're going to do is relocate the shocks. We're going to move them out, we're going to move them forward, and we're going to move it all up. Now what that's going to do is basically we're moving the legs of the table out closer to the corners. It's making it a lot more stable. Then when we relocate that bracket up, we're dropping the center of gravity of the body of this thing too, and it's going to make things a lot more stable. So we got a lot going on too.
Yeah, this thing becomes very top heavy very easily. So what we're going to do is we're moving the center of gravity down, we're making it a longer wheelbase essentially, and we're actually going to be able to take advantage of the shocks. Now that's a key component to this kit we got from FST. We're using a dual rate shock that's going to give us the best of both worlds in both performance and comfort, but we're also able to use it by standing it straight up. We're not disadvantaging the shock like you do when you lay it over. Right. So now we're going to get the full rate of the shock to make a much better ride.
Now the good news is by being able to use the suspension to its full capacity, we can now start using the engine to its full capacity as well.
I like
That's when the fun picks up, right?
Absolutely, buddy.
You need a hand? Welcome back to TruckU. So we've got the shock hung in place, the arms are in place, the spindle's ready to go. We just got to get that axle back in, then we can button all this back up together. Here's another cool part about this kit. It's all about adjustability and fine tuning. You can fine tune every element of this kit. Good thing is no matter where you live, no matter what the elements are that you're going to be putting this through, you can adjust it accordingly. Like ride height, for example, right here, you've got about 3 inches of travel. You can just run this black nut down here on the threads on the shock right there. So if you're out west where it's dry and you're just jumping, you want to keep it low and tight for the turns. If you're over in the east and maybe you're running through a little bit more water and you need it to be a little bit higher, a little bit more ground clearance, you can do that. So like we said with this kit, it's all about fine tuning and you can adjust just about every part of it. As far as the suspension goes in the rear of this, we've got a lot of the same issues that we had up front, mainly shock position. If you take a look at this right here, it's right in the middle of what would be the driver's back. So again, they're mounted kind of narrow, so you've got all of this weight, especially if there's 2 people in there and you're doing a lot of turning, all this weight is just swinging back and forth, and it's sitting at a very disadvantaged position in the stock configuration. So what we want to do is move that, and it really all goes back to that kind of table comparison that we made up on the front.
Now, it's a similar scenario in the back, but it's probably worse. At least in the front, they were closer to the end of the table. In the back, it's almost like you've got a front leg, you've got a middle leg, but no back leg, because by the time you get done with the bed, you're all the way back here. So this is going to be a big improvement.
So here is what we're going to do. Very similar to the front. We're going to take the shock mount location, we're going to move it out to the exterior of the vehicle and further to the back, and it's going to be straight up and down. That's going to be a lot more advantageous right there, and it's going to make the control a lot better.
Now, another thing we've got here is I want to show you in the original configuration from the factory is you've got this swing arm suspension, which allows for travel up and down, which is great if you're going for a straight line. But as we've seen out on the trail, when you go to turn, it's not doing you a whole lot of good because basically you've got this big lever on this diagonal, which is giving you a ton of mechanical advantage. So when it hits a turn, basically you're putting the back end of the vehicle and you're making it light, which ends up you being on your side. Obviously not what we're looking for.
Okay, so what we're going to do is go from the swing arm suspension, that's going to go, and we're going to this double wishbone style configuration. And what that's going to do is bring roll center back into the vehicle. And what I mean when I say roll center is the fact that it's going to be a lot better for control, because as these arms go up and down, the way that this thing is engineered, as far as the geometry goes, it adjusts the camber of the tire. So let's say you're going in and you hit a real hard turn, right? And you turn this way. What it's going to do is the camber is going to be adjusted to where the tires are going to roll out this direction. You go the other way and they're going to roll out this direction a little bit. And what it does is the idea is to keep the biggest possible footprint of the tire on the ground at all times. Even when you're in those sharp turns, you're going to have full traction, better control, and it's just overall better ride quality.
Yeah, and the other thing that we want to talk about too is the shocks. And once again, in the back, you've got this big disadvantage. Look at this angle. The more you lay them down, the less shock you're using. So by standing it back up, we can once again use that complete rate of that shock to get proper dampening going down the road. And I can tell you something, out on the trails, this thing's going to be like a Baja vehicle. It's going to be mean.